What's going on, everybody? This is Brian Mazique, aka Unique Mazique, the hardest working man in sports and gaming, and we're back with another episode of Ask Mazique. Before we get into the question, as always, if you want to be down, just send me the message on Twitter. Just tweet at me, basically, at Unique Mazique, and use the hashtag Ask Mazique to make sure that I see the question and get your question involved. So this first one we're going to today is from Miss Rad 11. MS Rad 11 Raven, and it says, do you think it's time for the GarPax era in Chicago Bulls basketball to come to an end? So essentially, is it time for Jerry Reinsdorf to finally pull the plug on Gar Forman and John Paxson as the brain trust for the Chicago Bulls organization? And I would say yes. I am not, and I've talked about this before on episodes of At Me Bro. If you haven't watched At Me Bro, make sure you check it out. If you haven't subscribed and liked this video yet, make sure you do that too. But I've talked about that with in several situations about how I didn't like necessarily the way Jim Boylen was going about coaching the team. To a degree, I understand why. I do. I agree. I know that the Bulls have a negative culture associated with their organization. And it's negative from every way, right? So you got players across the league that don't seemingly hold the team or the organization in high regard, right? They don't trust management. That's come out several times. Players don't trust management. Players don't even trust assistant coaches. So it's like, if you have something like that, then generally you need to at least be a type of organization that can keep order and have some sort of discipline in place. The Bulls hadn't had that throughout the entire time period with Fred Hoiberg. It seemed like things were somewhat changing with Tom Thibodeau, as you were getting some big-time players that were at least thinking about joining. You had Pau Gasol join. You saw Carmelo Anthony really regret not coming to the Bulls, and if he had to do it again, he said that he would do it when he chose to stay with the Knicks over the Bulls. So there is things were seeming like they were changing. So then, the Bulls, they fired Fred Hoiberg, which is something that had to happen. And they hired Jim Boylen, and Jim Boylen has come in like he is just the drill sergeant guy. And at first, it seemed that was met with some resistance by a few guys. But now it seems that people are maybe backing up a little bit because it does appear that the Bulls are playing harder, right? Especially defensively. They've had several games this season. Well, not several. I would say 3 to 4 games since Boylen has taken over. Well, they've actually held teams under 100 points. Doing that in today's basketball is insane. Doing that in today's basketball is the equivalent of holding somebody within the 70s within 70 points, in the 90s, right? So this is significant. And it's not necessarily just because they're slowing the pace down. The Bulls are playing better defense overall, for the most part, right? Still trying to find themselves offensively. And I think Boylen is kind of helping with that too. And so I am shifting gears a little bit on Boylen. They're starting to do things that make some sense. But all of that said, I don't think that there is enough there to say, hey, let's give Gar and Pax more time. If you really think about it, Gar and Pax have gotten an opportunity to go through more head coaching hires than just about any management, front office group, general manager, however you want to put it. They've gotten an opportunity to go through more coach choices than you've ever seen. No general manager gets this many do-overs. Because essentially, when you fire and hire a new coach, that's a do-over. You generally don't see general managers and front offices get this many times. They hired, I believe, Bill Cartwright. I think it was Skiles. Then it was Vinny Del Negro. Then Tom Thibodeau. Then Fred Hoiberg. And then now it's Jim. That's 6 hires, man. And if you think about it, what's the level of success that the franchise has had during that time? It's not been crazy. The peak of this was Tom Thibodeau's time when the Bulls had the best record in the NBA, I believe 2 years in a row, made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. I think it was in 2010. That was Derrick Rose's MVP season. That whole thing. This organization, this regime has not set the world on fire. So you got to ask, why have they gotten so many opportunities? So who knows? Nobody knows why they've gotten so many chances. But at this point, with the team headed again for the top of the lottery, I mean, the Bulls, I mean, as of me recording this, they just beat the Orlando Magic, right? So what are they, like 6-20 something? It's bad, right? It's bad. It's already, to me, honestly, I don't even know the purpose of even trying to improve this year. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, the bad thing about it is the Bulls are not a bunch that is without talent. I mean, you have Larry Markkinen, granted he just came back December 1st. Chris Dunn, who came back around, I mean, maybe the same game. Then you also have Wendell Carter Jr., who's a young guy who's getting better. Bobby Portis has battled injury throughout the season. He hurt himself early, just got hurt again, is going to miss 2 to 4 weeks again. You got Zach LaVine, who is not the most efficient player, but definitely a talented guy. I mean, obviously the Bulls are trying to move Jabari Parker. By the time you see his video, he might already be traded. I mean, so actually I don't think he can be traded till like January 15th. But so yeah, you'll see it before then. But it's tough. It's tough to understand why they're this bad. I mean, some of it, yes, is injury, but it's not all about injury. It's really about the Bulls need a change, and I think from top to bottom. Now, obviously, you can't fire the owner, so Jerry's there, but from top to bottom, the Bulls need a change. They need the type of organization that functions like Oklahoma City, that functions like San Antonio, that functions like these organizations that are perennial, respectable teams, you know, because they, like when somebody leaves OKC, usually it's not because they weren't treated properly. You know, of course, James Harden wanted his money, he didn't get it. He went to the Rockets. I understand that, and I think that's something that the Thunder do actually regret. But for the most part, the feelings about Oklahoma City or as an organization are pretty positive from the players who played there. Even Kevin Durant, you know, I think there's a piece of Kevin Durant. I don't know about regretting it, but I think there's a piece of Oklahoma City that he probably misses. And I think the Warriors are a solid organization as well. Obviously, you know, 3 championships in 4 years is pretty solid. But the Bulls need to bring in someone from the top who can bring in with them a culture that changes the way the players look at the organization, changes the way the fans look at the organization, changes the way other players throughout the NBA look at the organization, everything. And I don't think that change can take place with Gar Forman and John Paxson in control. Now, some might say, well, who do you want? Who could make that type of a change? Honestly, I think the Bulls have to go looking for their version of Theo Epstein, who came in with the Chicago Cubs and he literally changed culture. He changed culture. He and Jed Hoyer helped. They came in here and they helped change the Cubs' culture. It became a culture of winning, a culture that expected to win. And that's the way they operated. And the Bulls do not operate at that level of confidence. The Bulls do not operate at that level of competence. And you know what? And not everything that the Cubs have done has worked. Jason Hayward was a bad signing. Okay? I mean, Jason Hayward's been nowhere near worth the money that the Cubs paid him. Neither has Yu Darvish. You know, John Lester's been up and down, but for the most part, you'd have to say, yeah, he was worth it. I mean, I don't want to turn this into a baseball conversation, but my point is, when you come in and you change culture positively, you don't have to make all the right moves. You know why? Because your positive culture ultimately takes up the slack for the mistakes, the things that can go wrong, the injuries, the off the court type of things that can go wrong. Your culture saves that. And the Bulls don't have good culture. And the only way they're going to get it is to bring in a new general manager and people in charge to help get it. So my answer is yes. That's all I got for you guys today. As always, I appreciate you watching. God bless and peace.
Pocket, I'll be weak. I'm rather unique.